going to push record. We're on page 4 in the notes, and we need to talk about how to change fractions into decimals. The first problem I want to look at is if I give you the fraction 1/4, and I want to turn this into a decimal. There is a very easy way to do this. Does anyone know what that easy way is, which involves a calculator?
1 divided by 4.
Say that one more time.
1 divided by 4.
Absolutely. All we're going to do to change fractions to decimals is we're going to divide on the calculator. We're going to divide the top, called the, we said this yesterday, what's the top called? Just unmute yourself and say something.
Numerator.
Numerator, absolutely. By the bottom, which is the
Denominator.
excellent. So to change fractions to decimals, all we are going to do is divide using the calculator, because these are a pain to do by hand. We're going to divide the numerator by the denominator. All we're going to do is divide. We're going to do it on the calculator, the top divided by the bottom. Although we're going to see in a moment that sometimes we get some kind of strange answers. This one shouldn't be a strange one. Go to your calculator, type in 1 divided by 4.
0.25.
Perfect. If you don't say the 0, that's okay as well. If you just say 0.25, I'll take that. But 0.25 I think looks a little bit better, but either way is fine. We have a name for a decimal like, actually, I don't want to say that yet. We'll talk about that in a moment. Can we get 0.25? Nod your head, shake your head, give me something. Okay. 2/9. This one is a little messier. Go do that on the calculator. Are we getting 0.22222, a whole bunch of 2's? And I think we can assume that if your calculator didn't stop there, the 2's would just keep going forever. Maybe. Okay, so there's a better way to write this. Who can remind me from last year the better way to write something like this? Anyone remember?
You can write a line on top of the 2.
That's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to write this number as 0.2 with a bar over it, and that bar means repeating. That 2 is repeating. Which brings me to 2 different types of decimals that we have. I would call the decimal we have in number 2 a repeating decimal, because that 2 repeats. It goes on forever. It is a repeating decimal. As opposed to what I have in number 1 that just stops. And the name we would give number 1 is a terminating decimal. To terminate is a fancy word for to stop. This is a decimal that just stops. I'm going to call number 1 a terminating decimal. Number 1 is a terminating decimal. And as we move through others of these, we're always going to want to label these things. Is it terminating or is it repeating? And I think it's going to be pretty easy to see if it's repeating. If we have a repeating bar, or if you go to your calculator, basically just see the number keeps going, it's going to be something repeating. Next one's going to be a little strange, maybe. 2/3, go to your calculator, and then stop after that, because I feel like something a little strange is going to happen here.
It's repeating with 6 until the end is a 7.
Oh, yeah. It would have been so good if it ended with a 6, but it didn't. Well, you know what? It actually is repeating. Here's why. Your calculator is actually trying to be smart, and because it's trying to be smart, it's actually messing things up a little bit for us. hopefully you remember from last year about rounding rules and stuff like that. If we have a decimal with a 6 at the end, wouldn't that round up the number before it? Your calculator is actually trying to do some rounding. So when it tells you a whole bunch of 6s and then a 7 at the end, it's not actually a 7. The calculator is telling you a 7 because it's rounding. You know what? I think in general, we should just ignore that very last number. Pretend like that 7's not there. Therefore, I can call this 0.6 repeating. And I'm going to make this I'm going to call this a repeating decimal. Sometimes it's helpful that the calculator does a little bit of rounding like that, but not so much with these. So just ignore that last place. This one's also going to be a little different. 83 over 99. I feel like when you go to your calculator, you might have that rounding issue again at the end. Just ignore the last place. Well, let's see what we can do here.
Point 83838383.
Yeah, and my calculator ended with a 4. I don't know about you. Are there
No.
people get a 4 at the end? It all depends on like how long these spaces are on your calculator. Some calculators can go out to 10 places, others go out to 12, whatever. But it looks like, if again, we should be ignoring that. So 83838383. It's repeating, right? I'm going to write 0.83. What do I do with the bar? Where do I put the bar over?
Should you just put it over the 8 and 3?
Exactly. It needs to go over both of them to show that the whole 8-3 thing is repeating. I'm going to call this repeating. Not going to bother writing the word decimal. Repeating is good enough for me. You're going to do the next one. 1/6. I hope you can see, by the way, why we need a calculator for these. We could do a lot of division by hand, but that would be unpleasant. So 0.166666667, but again, we don't care about the 7. So looking good? You like it? You like what I just did? We're good? You don't like it? Say something. You like my answer? Does anyone not like my answer?
Good.
Anyone not like that? I think I might have messed up.
The one is like only there once and it doesn't repeat.
Yeah, so how are you going to show that? This is
Just
wrong.
put it over the 6.
That bar has got to go over only the part that's repeating. So make sure it's only over the 6. It's still repeating. Okay, we're going to do 2 more. 4 and 7/8. I think I need to move my book up a little bit. 4 and 7/8. Now, we're going to do this one together. There is an easy way to do this and a hard way to do this. The hard way involves like doing 8 times 4 and adding that to 7. We don't have to do that. There's an easier way. I want you to go to your calculator and just do 7 divided by 8.
Point 875.
One more time.
0.875.
0.875. Perfect. You know what I'm going to do with the 4? Instead of making this 0.875, I'm just going to make it 4.875. That's all I'm going to do. So basically, you're going to use the calculator for the fraction parts and just stick that whole number before the decimal. It's 4.875. And what? Repeating or terminating?
It's
Terminated.
terminated.
It is terminating. It just stopped. I want you to do 5 and 5/6. Go try that one, and then we'll talk about what you're going to do later today.
Wait, say that. What are we doing again?
5 and
Mhm.
5/6.
Can I give the answer?
Elena, go for it, please.
5.83 repeating.
Yep. Can you tell me how you did the repeating part? What was the repeating bar over?
3.
Perfect. So not the 8 and the 3, just the 3. I hope all you people did was just 5 divided by 6 and then stuck the 5 before the decimal. There are harder ways to do this. Don't do it the harder way. Elena, silly question, but what would you call it? Terminating or repeating? I think it's obvious.
Repeating.
Of course, if you use a repeating bar, it's going to be repeating. There are 2 more that we're going to look at, but I think we're going to look at those tomorrow because I want to make sure I have a chance to talk about what you're going to be doing a little bit later today, because we are supposed to be giving you a little bit of work beyond just the 30-minute school. It's not supposed to be, 2 hours today. Can you take a moment and go into Google Classroom, please? And I think I'm going to do the same. What am I looking for here? I'm looking for Gblock. So first of all, I gave you homework yesterday. Homework number 2. Those of you at home will just have to kind of get it from the screen and either print it if you have a printer, or if not, totally fine, just do it on a separate sheet. That'll be due by the start of class tomorrow. But there's also a little activity you're going to do. The fractions to decimals practice. It's going to bring up a Google Slides thing. And hopefully I said it correctly, so it will make a copy for each of you, and you can actually like click on things. What you're going to do is you're going to take a fraction. You're going to write it on a separate sheet of paper. You're going to turn it into a decimal. And then you're going to decide, oh, and I messed that one up. Okay, hold on. Whatever. You're going to figure out what it is as a decimal, and then you're going to drag it to the appropriate column. If 7/15 becomes a terminating decimal, you're going to drag it over there. If it ends up being repeating, okay, now I'm really confused. This didn't work the way I wanted it to. Okay, hold on. So you've got class next anyhow, so I'm going to take like time the next hour to clean this up, and it will be good for you to go once your classes are done for the rest of the day. But basically, you're going to take a fraction, make it into a decimal, do that on a separate sheet of paper, and then drag the fraction to the appropriate place if it's repeating or if it's terminating. Do you see what I'm saying with that? I'm going to need to see your work on this. Like by work, I don't mean like a whole lot of work, just the decimals that you're getting. You're going to do that on a separate sheet of paper. And then in Google Classroom, after you do that activity, there's just a different space that says submit a PDF of your work from the activity. That's where you'll submit that PDF of your work. Do you follow what I'm saying here? I don't think this should take you super long, but this will just give you a little bit more practice with the stuff. And then this truly is all we need for our first quiz. We will talk more in class tomorrow. Make sure later in the day you do that activity, you submit your work, and you also do the homework by the start of class tomorrow. I need to let you run off to A block, but I will see more of you in person tomorrow than I've seen before, and I will see you all later. Take care.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome. See you later.